Hey guys, hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my review of Evil Dead Burn. Yes, today we're going to be talking about the sixth film in the Evil Dead franchise, the first film in the franchise to be directed by Sebastian Vanacek, and this is actually his second feature film that he's directed. And then, of course, we've also got Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert producing for this film. Obviously, the great Sam Raimi, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. Basically, he and Rob Tapert are the two creators of this whole franchise. Sam Raimi directed the first three, I believe. Then we get that 2013 remake, reboot thing that I also really love. Evil Dead Rise came out a few years back. And just personally, I am a pretty big Evil Dead fan. I've really enjoyed every single installment going into Evil Dead Burn. Like I said, huge Sam Raimi fan. Just everything that he's attached to, I find it has a certain voice, certain quality that I just love. And with Evil Dead Burn, we have essentially a young grieving widow who's played by Suhaila Yacoub. Now, some of you may recognize her from the film Climax from Gaspar Noé, another fantastic film. And she's kind of in the situation where she is grieving the loss of her husband, and she's drawn into this situation after the service for her husband, where she's basically forced into a horrific and bloody fight for her life over the course of a single night involving her in-laws after they are one by one transformed into deadites. And there's some other stuff going on under the surface. It's not everything is quite as it seems. There's a little bit more going on, and that kind of gets revealed as you sort of peel back the layers and really get into what's going on here. And when it comes to Evil Dead Burn, I'm going to go light on the plot just because I think it's more interesting the less that you know. But that's just the general idea of what's going on here. But when it comes to Evil Dead Burn, I had a really good time with this film. And in some ways, I actually really do think that I prefer this to Evil Dead Rise. Now, I will say, when it comes to Evil Dead Burn, the first third of the movie I found to be a little bit shaky. It's just kind of putting all the pieces in motion, and there's a performance or two that I didn't really think was all that strong. But once we really get to the house, once we really kind of start to see the cogs in the Evil Dead machine start going, because, this movie is really kind of a take on that classic formula. And once we start to get to the point where you start to see all the pieces starting to line up and you know what the payoffs are going to be, I found this movie to be very, very satisfying. And I think if you're an Evil Dead fan, you're going to catch a lot of these little references that are coming at you left and right. And if you're not, I still think you're really going to enjoy this film. Personally, like I said, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, so watching these little things, you're like, oh yeah, I know what's about to happen here. Oh my gosh, look, that's the item from this movie in the past. I'm trying to not spoil it so that you can get everything out of this movie if you go and see it, which I think you should. But anyway, I just found this to be a really fun and interesting take on that formula, and I thought it was very skillfully directed. I'll say there's a scene, I think we all kind of know if we've seen any of the promotional material leading up to this. There's a one-shot sequence that happens close to the maybe about 2/3 of the way through the film that is just breathtaking. It's just beautiful. It's horrific. It's awesome. I found it to be incredibly effective because it's focusing mainly on this character's face, and the camera's sort of tracking her as she's walking, and just kind of dodging and evading all the horror and everything that's going on around her, and you can only hear the sounds of what's going on, and it just ramps it up like to insane degrees because you don't know what's going on. Your brain is trying to fill in the gaps of all these noises that you're hearing, and I just found that scene to be honestly probably one of my favorite sequences of this entire year in film. And like for that scene alone, I highly recommend checking this movie out. And of course, gone on a bit about how much I really love this movie and the things that I enjoyed about it. But I will say it does have its flaws at times. Like I said, that first third-ish of the movie does kind of drag. I don't think the opening shot is quite as good as that opening shot from Evil Dead Rise. And some of the performances, like I said, they don't quite land. So it's a little bit you're kind of like thinking, oh, where's this going to go? I hope that, we get somewhere soon. But once the pieces start going into place, I really think the movie starts to click from there. And like I kind of alluded to before, with this being a story about grief and sort of relationships, this movie's a little bit more ambitious in scope than maybe some of the Evil Dead entries. It's a little bit on the nose, maybe at points, I will say. It maybe kind of breaks the immersion a bit when you're kind of, it's kind of presenting these metaphors and these analogies that it's going for, which I do enjoy and appreciate that this movie is going for something a little bit different, and it's found this way to sort of thread these themes into an Evil Dead framework. But I do think sometimes subtlety is really key when it comes to presenting analogies and metaphors, and sometimes this movie was a little bit shaky in the way that it chose to do that. And then additionally, I really think the main thing that's keeping this movie from really bumping up into like the upper top tier Evil Dead entries is this just CGI monstrosity that happens in the end of the movie. Now, it's not just so present that it really just destroys the movie. It's only in about 2 scenes, but it is noticeably a step down from all of the other horror elements of this film. The practical effects, the gore that's going on here, it is just such a noticeable drop in quality that when you see it, you're like, oh, come on. Like it does take you out of the movie a little bit, and it I don't know. I don't want to say too much because it does have to do with something that happens at the end of the movie, but to me, I found that CGI to be a little bit of a letdown, and it did kind of take me out of the movie when you see it, but it is what it is. It's very brief. It didn't ruin it too much for me. And I still, like I said, I think that I absolutely do recommend this movie, and I recommend it to people who are massive Evil Dead fans, because I really think you will enjoy this, and I really think if you're not an Evil Dead fan, I think there's a lot to get out of this movie too. And one thing I will say, I think that this is a really fun movie to see in a group. I went with a group of people, and we all had a blast with it, and it was different levels of Evil Dead fans, people who had never seen an Evil Dead movie to people who had seen all of them, and we all had a really fun time, laughing at the jokes, because of course it's an Evil Dead movie. It does have a lot of really funny jokes, and kind of cringing at the gore with each other, and like looking around like, oh my god, did you see that? And I think that that's a great fun experience to have, so I do recommend going and seeing this movie with a group, and go and see it in a packed theater, go see it on the biggest screen possible, and just have fun with it. It's an Evil Dead movie, and it's actually, I will say, probably in a year where the horror space has been dominated by really original and amazing films, this is probably the best of the franchise horror that we're going to get this year. I think it's definitely the best one that I've seen, and it's interesting to see one come out that is up there for this year. But like I said, definitely recommend this movie. Give it a shot, and if you have seen it, let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about the Evil Dead movies in general, kind of how you would rank them. Ultimately, with this one, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's very, very good. I'll be watching it again. It'll be something that I'll be looking forward to when I watch my Evil Dead marathons. And yeah, so that is the review. Like I said, just let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about the Evil Dead movies in general. And yeah, hope to see you soon in the next review. All right, bye.